Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today is October 29th, just a couple days away from the end of the month, and we have a really good show today. During the first hour, we're going to be talking with Lynn Cooke as we do another episode of Muscle Saves Lives. A slightly different episode. You know, I find that the name of the show, Muscle Saves Lives, may pigeonhole the opportunities for me to interview people who are truly rocking it as they age and living a full physical culture lifestyle. Well, maybe lifting weights isn't the focus, but nonetheless, they are courageous people. We're going to talk to Lynn about her life in just a moment. Later in the show, we're going to talk about a study that shows that jet lag disrupts the immune system, and not just as it relates to chronic illness, which people who travel a lot know that they chronically get sick. They get colds. There's a reason for it. I'm going to talk about what you can do about it, but there's a linkage to cancer development. People who have disrupted sleep patterns, whether it's because they're traveling across the international date line or they're just going to the West Coast and back and forth and flying, there's a reason for it. This study does point it out. Before we get started, we have to thank our title sponsor. EatLegendary.com is the website. Legendary Foods. They have now introduced a new tasty pastry. We talked about it on the show yesterday with both Ron and Shannon Penna. It's got 15 grams of high quality, high leucine protein, less than 1 gram of sugar. Your kids will think it's a Pop-Tart because it's made to look like a Pop-Tart. It's made to taste like a Pop-Tart. You can toast it or eat it untoasted, but it's good for you if you are a low-carb, low-sugar person. And if you want to age well, I'm going to tell you something. I know there's a lot of people out there telling you, oh, sugar's not the problem. It is the problem. It's the problem feeding the wrong bugs in your gut. It's the problem leading to higher levels of inflammation in the body. And anytime you can eat something that makes you feel like you're cheating, but you're not, like the tasty pastry, you're winning. So go to eatlegendary.com, use the code SHR10, not only to save 10% off, but also let them know that you heard about it here on Superhuman Radio. Now I'll bring my guest on, and that is Lynn Cooke. How are you, Lynn? Should I call you Susan or should I call you Lynn?
Please call me Lynn. My friends call me Lynn, and I race under Susan, which is why I have to have it there.
Oh, really? Now, is that because that's your legal name?
Correct. And they always picked it up from the day I started racing because you have to register with your first and then so on, middle and last name. So they forevermore put it under Susan. So I had to keep the Susan Lynn in there.
Right. Interesting. So when did your journey in physical culture begin? What made you fall in love with using your body? As you and I talked about off the air, exercise is an artificial replacement for something we were genetically predisposed to do, and that is to use our bodies day in and day out all the time. When did you find this passion, let's say?
My father was a pro ball player, and I grew up in an atmosphere of both my brother and sister who were close in age, and I was a middle child, that we always did outdoor activities because of our age. We didn't watch TV, we didn't have a computer, and it was playing football, baseball, whatever the case would be. It was outside, riding bikes. I grew up to understand not only was I extremely competitive from the beginning, I would say 6, 7, 8 years of age, I absolutely loved sports, every sport I could get my hands on or into, and it was always competitive. And that's where I started my love for it.
So did you play sports in high school and in college?
I played anything I could get into at the time. High school did not allow us to have, we did not have soccer. I tried out for the track team and I was told I was too slow at the time. So I was not a runner. I went into gymnastics. I was a cheerleader. I was a snow skier. I went to Girl Scout horseback riding camp. I learned to ride Western English. I was a swimmer. Everything I could do, I did.
Right.
So, yeah.
And now so that's been a lifelong, that's been something that's been in your life since the very beginning.
Correct.
And obviously here we are now, and I'm going to give your age away. You're going to be 62. You and I are pretty close in age.
Mm-hmm.
And you still continue to compete. So talk about some of your competitions. You've traveled the world and competed in running, correct?
Correct. When I turned 50, there was I was a bucket list that I really wanted to run. And even though I was told I was too slow when I went out for it in junior high, I still wanted to run because when I moved down to Florida, it was everybody had 5Ks and half marathons, and I wanted to be a part of it. So I had a group where I was working that wanted to do a particular half marathon down in Miami, and it happened to fall on my 50th birthday weekend. So the goal was they were going to walk the half marathon and I was going to run it because that's who I am. I'm competitive. I did not know how to train. I did not know how. I have no coach. And I did not really have close friends that were runners, but I was determined to run it. So I had a treadmill and I would, after work, do about 4 or 5 miles watching TV. And I got myself to where I completed that half marathon, and I did it well enough that I saw I was within close enough proximity to maybe be on that podium. I watched the people on the podium. It got me so excited to say, here's these people with these huge gift boxes. I can do that. I know I can. And
Right.
that was the competitiveness that I needed. And I did start training at that point, and that was at age 50. I left road racing after doing, very good on the half marathons and the 5Ks and succeeding in getting overalls and a lot of this stuff, and actually doing much better than a lot of younger people, which was surprising because I never knew I had any speed at that time. So I started taking it a little more seriously, and I was told at age 56 by someone that I had met at a race that if I picked up track, it would help me with speed. So I joined a track group and I started racing on it. And 3 months later, the coach at that time said, you need to race USA Track and Field. I had no idea what he was talking about. I asked him several times, can you spell that? I do not know what that is. Which is kind of funny, really, because obviously I live by it now. And 3 months later, after first getting on my first track to train, I was at Jacksonville doing nationals in my first race, and I did an 800 meter and a 1500 meter without knowing what I was doing. Put on my first pair of spikes, hit the track, ran my heart out, and managed a silver on both, 2 minutes behind the gold winner. And nobody knew who I was.
Right.
They didn't know how to say my name. They had no clue who I was. I came out of nowhere and I didn't know what I was doing. There is a strategy, obviously, if anybody knows track and how to run an 800 meter and a 1500 meter, you don't go all out. But I did, and I had a ball doing it, and I did quite well. So that was the start of it. I then started hitting every track meet I could find. And 1 year later, I actually put together a team. And that team is the first large globally sponsored elite girls team of Masters runners, which is New Balance Tampa Masters Racing Team. And I did that because I was surprised there were no sponsored Masters women teams out there. And it was just a given. People didn't have sponsors when you are our age. So that's where I went ahead and put together a plan and met with a local New Balance owner and managed to start up a great team that we still have going at this time, and that's 4 years later.
So I want to.
Mm-hmm.
So you said something that I'm not familiar with, and I'm sure the audience probably is not. You said anybody who knows about running the 800 and the 1500 meters, you know that you don't go all out. Are you saying that you you rate yourself early on and you don't go all out and then you save something for the end, or they just don't really run as hard as they could in those races?
The 800 meter is considered to be the hardest race for middle distance, and actually in a lot of races, because a lot of times it's 2 full laps on an outside track. 400 meters is your typical outdoor track. And you don't want to give everything you have in that first lap, but yet it is truly almost an all-out race. So if you can consider racing as hard as you can, with 2 full laps in the outdoor sun, it takes everything you have and more. Okay. So when I say race as fast as I can, there is a type of strategy where you gauge yourself. You are pacing yourself, but you're still going all out, but not completely all out. So there is a strategy. And then the 1500, because of it being 3.5 laps, there's even more of a strategy with that one too.
Yeah, because I mean, so it's kind of a struggle to find your pace, but also stay with the pace, because who cares if your pace is 6 lengths off of the last person? It's like, well, I'm running my race. Well, you're never going to catch up. So you have to really be not only have great endurance, but you have to have the ability to do that keep the speed up as well.
Correct. It's practice, practice, practice. You are not made by your races. You're made by your training. And I know you know that. It's what you do behind the scenes that gets you to that gold medal or that American record.
Interesting. I have to ask another question for the women in the audience. Mm-hmm. We know that menopause is a really, really big change for the body. So did you go through menopause before you started to pick up the idea of competing and running, or somewhere in the middle, or have you ever gone through?
Oh yeah, at my age, yes. It was probably right before, when I was still professionally working, and I don't remember noticing it as much because you have so many aches and pains from whatever you're doing. It's just normal discomfort I always lifted weights. I've always been very aware of needing muscle tone no matter what sport I'm doing. That is very important to me, because without muscle, you can't do any sport. And that also will keep you younger longer and avoid any kind of, aging, which I have great bones, and everything is very positive in that respect because of the weights I've lifted all my life. But yes, it is something where I am not aware of the menopause factor, but
you had an easy menopause. You didn't have disrupted sleep and hot flashes and all that sort of stuff. You just kind of breezed through it.
It didn't control my life. No.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. And then I want to ask about your diet before we start talking about some of the challenges you've encountered that you've had to work through. So what does your diet look like? You say you need muscle. You understand protein is important. What does your diet look like?
Well, you mentioned sugar being bad. I agree completely. I don't even do a lot of fruit because, honestly, I feel even the simple sugars in the fruit. I'm a huge protein, and I don't do, my carb is very limited. I don't bring in carbs on a regular basis. I worked with a sports dietitian 2 years ago when I accomplished an American record. I was able to turn 2.5 pounds of fat into 2.5 pounds of muscle while I was racing on a middle distance figure, which means you have to be very careful while you're in race mode when you're, doing something like that.
You make a mistake in your diet and you crash. You can't run as fast as you were able to before, right?
Right, exactly. So protein is huge. I will do quite a bit of protein. I don't do fake protein as little as possible. I do casein protein at night for slow repair. I do whey protein where it's needed in the day when I need to supplement. I do a recovery drink after every type of exercise that uses my muscles within 20 minutes, whether it be my running, my weights, my spinning, my boarding, whatever the sport is. I'm extremely rigid on counting my proteins, especially during race season. It's very important.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, the word rigid. Mm-hmm. So I saved my own life almost 20 years ago because I was very sick and I was dying, and I convinced myself that I could repair myself, and I did. And everybody in the audience knows my story, so we're not going to get into that. But I had to become militant about what I knew I needed to do for myself in order to achieve my goal. And my goal, short-term goal, was not to have a pacemaker put in. That was like the short-term goal. And so how is it difficult to build friendships outside of running for you? Or do you have to pretty much stay with the people that you run with because, no pun intended, because they have the same desires and goals and missions and they live that same life?
I don't have a lot of track friends in this area because my area doesn't promote them. So I have a lot of friends of varied backgrounds. We're all sports people. That's the one thing we have in common. We respect our bodies and we are fit. Some are more fit than others. I am probably one of the more disciplined, but that's because that's what I choose to do. I get up quite early to do my training because I have to seek out tracks where they're available, and that's before school in most cases. I go and board right when the sun comes up. So, I mean, there are things that I do that are very disciplined that a lot of people would not do, but my friends are of the same mindset.
What is board? Yeah, what do you mean?
Stand-up paddleboard. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah, you're out in Florida. Yeah. Great. Everybody does that out there. I have a good friend, Jose Antonio, who does that as well.
Yeah. That's great.
So, okay. So let's get back to the discussion about your age. So you got started in this particular goal, but you've always had physical goals your whole life. And obviously, even though you and I don't want to age, and we do a lot of things to push back on aging in general and the disease states of aging, the body still has a mind of its own and it does certain things.
Right.
So you've encountered some obstacles. Now you just ran through this and it's like, oh my God, she's amazing. But this was not without obstacles, right?
Of course.
Talk about your obstacles, please.
Okay. I have very little fear when it comes to doing things. And I don't mean I jump out of airplanes, but I'll give you some examples. I'm not afraid of getting injured, which I probably should be, but my coaches try to pull me back, but they know better at some point because when my mind is made up, it's made up. I do things within I still weigh the consequences. For instance, I wanted to do steeplechase. Being that I didn't start running until 50 and track until 56, I obviously have never done a hurdle, and I certainly didn't know steeplechase. Well, I decided to do this the same year I was going for the American record on the outdoor mile. Right after I did the American mile at 59 and a half, I had just started teaching myself steeplechase in my backyard. I had a barrier built by spec using Yoo-hoo, or rather, I Googled how to do steeplechase because my coaches refused to help me on that. They did not want to see me get hurt. Right. So I actually got a gold medal in my one and only steeplechase, which was at nationals, and I did quite well, but I did get injured, and I was headed to Spain, Malaga, Spain, 3 months later, and had to race at my first world event, outdoor track, on an injury, but I still did it. And if I had not been in the shape I was in with my muscle tone and my fitness already, I would have had a much worse outcome. And I was able to heal quite easily after that. So that is just one of many. I've in snow skiing, which I'm aggressive. I do the black diamonds. I do the moguls. I've had a navicular fracture repaired, and I do just fine with everything I'm doing. I've had a talus fracture on my other foot. But again, I heal well because I respect my body when I have an injury. I give it the time to heal. I eat the proper foods. I get the proper sleep. I do all the things that you're supposed to do for your body to take care of itself. And so these come with the territory.
What was the injury that, well, first of all, I never watched steeplechase before. I mean, with humans, I worked as a kid, I worked on the racetrack. In fact, I lived in Ocala for a short period of time on Hobo Farms, but I've seen horses run steeplechase, but I've never seen humans until this American girl just recently beat everybody in the steeplechase, and she literally went wire to wire. And I'm watching this, and not only are they jumping over these hurdles, right, but they're jumping over into puddles of water. They're jumping into water, and then they have to run through the water. And I thought, this is like one of those superhero obstacle courses. And these gals were, and this girl, I don't know if you just saw it. It was just on, I would have never known about it, but it was on YouTube the other day. I was watching it. And this blonde-haired girl like beat everybody, like the Nigerians and all the people that are supposed to be like the best. But I thought, wow, I've never heard of steeplechase. That's probably one of the most interesting foot races I've ever seen in my life.
I agree. And you have to have guts to do it. It's nothing more than guts. And obviously you have to be agile enough to do that. But I had more fun doing that race than any other race. And I still have the barrier. I had to put it in my garage, or I'd be out there jumping it right now. I will do it at another point, but I have records to break and on the flat. And until I do what I need to do for my goals, that's going to stay in my garage. Talk about the injury.
You hurt your knee, right?
Well, recently, this is my latest injury. And that was, okay. This is actually lifting weights improperly, which I know how to do. And I took too heavy of a kettlebell last 2019 January, the beginning, and I was doing squats and knowing how to do these. I don't know how I did it, but somehow I did something where my knee was affected, my right knee. Now, the thing was, we thought my knees were really good because I had always had x-rays when needed, and they looked great on an x-ray. But I had never had any swelling, never had any discomfort for what I had been using them for. And we had to it suddenly swelled up, and to the point where the MRI was needed because it was just not going down and there was a lot of discomfort. And that was in January of 2019. I was scheduled to go to Poland for my first indoor world race, which was huge, had already paid for everything. And that was a huge event. And that was to be in March of 2019. So we wanted to get and see what was going on, and found that I had a 4th degree osteoarthritis in my right knee. I mean, 4th degree. And they took out fluid. My sports physician said, I am telling you to scratch Poland, to scratch Worlds. I was not going to scratch it. Well, he is a triathlete. So I said, put on your triathlete hat, take off your physician hat, and let's talk about this. Would you actually scratch Worlds? No, after you've trained so hard. So let's figure this out. I won't run at all to train. I will cross train. I will get in that pool and I will tread water. I will run in the water. I will do anything you'll allow me to do to get to Worlds, but I want to go to Worlds. So he said, you cannot run, period, but you can go to Worlds. And the minute you have any swelling or any injections to get there, you have to pull out, because that means you basically are ruining your knee even more. So I promised to do that. I flew into Torun, Poland in March after only doing what he had advised me to do. And
you just did everything in the pool.
Correct. Everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And first race was a 3,000 meter, which is 15 laps on an indoor track, 15 laps. That was right off the plane, basically 2 days later. 15 laps on indoor track. I managed bronze on that one. And then 2 days after that, I had an 800 meter where we had to do, the first leg is where you just have to qualify. I qualified with first out of the gate. Again, keep in mind, I'm not even running at all in between, and I have nowhere to swim either. So I'm basically just sitting on the sidelines getting ready for the next race, which you never do. So I made the finals, of course. And then on the finals, I actually got gold medal on the 800 meter in Worlds. And that's on an injury, complete injury.
Now, did it swell up after that?
No. 2 days after that, I had to qualify them for the 1500, which I still had to do. And I qualified, went into the finals, and managed a bronze on that one too. So I walked away from Worlds not having any running ability, but only the racing that I was told I could do. And I had 2 bronze and 1 gold, therefore being a world champion. I then begged my physician, since I had no swelling and no discomfort at that point, if I could continue the process for the remainder of the year, promising to get a PRP injection, which he wanted me to try, even though at my age with that type of injury of the osteoarthritis, they had no proof it was going to work. We had nothing else we could do, just keep me at an elite level though. So he said he's not happy with it, but if I go through the rest of the season, the outdoor track season, which I was going to Toronto and to nationals, he would allow it only if I paid attention like I did in the world event. I did. I managed 9 golds, 1 silver for the rest of the season.
With an injury.
With an injury and no ability to run. Yes.
Right. No practice. No practice.
No practice. Just swimming.
Mm-hmm. So I wonder what that means to the traditional approach to practicing right up to the race. And, you may have stumbled onto something like you don't have to practice as much. That's one thing I wanted to mention. The other thing I wanted to mention is there used to be a physician in Florida named Dr. Alan Dunn, and he stopped practicing because he's 87 years old now. He was on my show 7 or 8 years ago. And he has trained a lot of osteopods to do this, what I'm about to say. So there is something you can do. In fact, I'm going for an injection in my hip very shortly because I tore the labrum in my hip getting too wide on bent over rows one day. And now 4 years after that injury, it's starting to bother me. I'm starting to have hip problems. And for people who don't know what hip problems is, you feel it in your groin when your hip is bad. You don't feel it out here where your wallet is. That's not your hip, that's your glutes. But so I'm starting to have some problems. So I'm actually going for this because I know it works. Mm-hmm. Physicians will tell you that you can't regrow cartilage at our age.
Right.
It's nonsense. Intra-articular growth hormone injections. So Dunn worked with NFL players. He worked with everybody before he retired. He came on my show. We talked about it. If you get a 20 IU growth hormone injection combined with some hyaluronic acid, and a gel medium that they use the hyaluronic acid. And now they're even adding PRP to it. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. If you get that, you get it 3 weeks in a row, 1 shot, ultrasound guided into the synovial capsule. They squeeze it, and in 6 months, the cartilage is growing. It's growing. It's not the fluid from the hyaluronic acid. And Dunn came on the show and talked about it. The first thing that happens is new blood vessels start to sprout out of the bone where it's bone on bone. Mm. And then chondrocytes start to bud from there. And literally within a year, you have a meniscus again. You have a piece of cartilage in your knee. And every time I tell physician friends of mine, they immediately dismiss it. They go, you can't regrow cartilage. Well, of course you can. If you can turn the neonatal genes on inside the joint that made cartilage when you were a baby in the first place. And that's what growth hormone does when you're injecting it directly into the knee. Now, keep in mind, it stays in the synovial fluid. It doesn't get out systemically. It's not like it's affecting anything else in your body because it stays trapped in there. Mm-hmm. But it's something that you should consider talking to someone about because I guarantee you it will regrow your cartilage.
Well, I would like actually an MRI to see because I have been racing already. In fact, I go in a week for my first indoor, even with this COVID going on. I'm going to be racing in Winston-Salem in an indoor meet. And I've already been racing in Houston or Austin, actually. I've done a lot already this summer, and I've done a ton of virtual. So, I'm not having any issues whatsoever since I've had the PRP. It really has worked. Whether it grew anything or not, I don't know. The problem is
your low sugar diet is keeping inflammation under control. But go ahead, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. Because of being under USA Track and Field and racing at the elite level that I do, and also winning the winnings that I do, gold and world records or American records, I'm drug tested. I have to go by what's WADA approved. Unfortunately, growth hormone is not either injected or no matter how you take it. And they would not approve that, even though I understand the benefits. I understand the benefits of testosterone too. And unfortunately, we are not allowed, even as aging adults, to do any of that. So that is someday, hopefully they will change that because, it's against what, and I know that you support and I do too, but we can't do it. If you want to compete.
Very sad. You know why that's sad? Because Phil Mickelson couldn't play golf if it wasn't for a drug. Mm-hmm. I've had this discussion on this show over and over again. Phil Mickelson is not a pro golfer unless he's taking a rheumatoid arthritis drug. And
Yeah.
people will say, well, it's a disease. Well, yeah. And so is losing your hormones.
Yeah.
Andropause, menopause, these are conditions that the human body goes through. The same way Phil Mickelson has antibodies that are destroying his cartilage, we have problems too. And if you can take a drug, because as far as I'm concerned, whatever drug Phil takes for his rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, is performance enhancing. If it's not, then have him stop and see if he plays the same level of game.
Yeah.
So
well,
it's hogwash. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
But I'm a registered nurse and I worked in the ER for many years, but I do understand the principles and, I do agree that there is benefit, and especially at our age, there's nothing I can do to change their mind. I just have to adhere with what I'm allowed to and not allowed if I want to race at this level, which I do. But knowing how to eat right, I truly believe something like beets we consider to be the only form of legal doping. And I will do whatever I'm allowed to do legally, such as beets. Yes.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you.
Yes. So I'll do my protein, I'll do my beet shots, which I'm allowed to do, and I do them by the book. So, and the PRP is accepted too.
Tomorrow, I'm doing a show you'll want to listen to.
Okay.
Because it's not a banned substance, but it repairs bone, it repairs cartilage, it builds muscle. It's a peptide, and it's a peptide that's given to women who go through menopause when they get dreary and they just don't feel like there's any sparkle in their life anymore. It's going to be a really great show for a lot of athletes. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. Before we do that, people can reach you on Instagram at NB, which stands for New Balance, Tampa Masters, or on Facebook, they can just look for you as Lynn Cooke, Cooke. We're going to take one quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more Muscle Saves Lives. Stay tuned. Do you remember those delicious toaster pastries you had when you were a kid? You know, the rectangular sugar-filled snacks? Well, guess what? Legendary Foods has just made low-carb toaster pastry. This is the first of its kind, and honestly, these things are amazing. They have 3 to 4 net carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 9 grams of protein. You can eat them right out of the wrapper or lightly toast them. The only question is, which flavor, strawberry or brown sugar cinnamon? They're available at eatlegendary.com and Amazon.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Guys, you've heard about this revolutionary acoustic wave technology that improves your sexual performance. It's been used in Europe for 20 years and has a 90% success rate of reversing symptoms of ED. Even if you're not suffering from ED, it can take you back to peak sexual performance of your younger days. The Phoenix uses powerful sound waves to clear plaque blockage and substantially increase blood flow. It's easy to use, has no side effects, and can be done in the privacy of your own home. Doctors have been charging thousands of dollars for these treatments. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Phoenix and use the code SHR for a special superhuman deal. Regain your sexual prowess today. Are you still on the fence about body protection complex BPC oral from drseeds.com? Listen to Maggie Kuhn, one of the owners of the C-Bus lifting company gym in Columbus, Ohio.
I had been having some nagging tendon issues that weren't injuries, just things that were annoying. You know, I'm 58 years old, so just older tendon kind of issues. For us powerlifters, you know, we really don't stop training when we have just nagging issues. We just kind of keep pushing through. And I started the BPC. What I noticed was I was doing some heavy tricep stuff that would have killed me before when I had an elbow problem, and I was able to do that with literally no pain at all.
Go to drseeds.com, DRSEEDS.com. Use coupon code SHR and save 20% off your bottle of BPC Body Protection Complex today. I love beef, and if you love beef, listen up. I've discovered the best tasting beef in the world, and that's not an exaggeration, at Piedmontese.com. The Piedmontese breed is famous from Italy. family for being lean and unbelievably tender with half the fat and calories of traditional beef. Even typically tough cuts are tender when it comes from the Piedmontese cows. And for the first time ever, Piedmontese cows are being raised here in the USA. Get 25% off all beef and free shipping on orders of $100 or more at Piedmontese.com with code SHR. Go to Piedmontese.com and use code SHR today. You will never eat any other type of beef ever again. Whether your goal is to build muscle or burn fat, you'll find everything you need at Redcon One. Need help getting a good night's sleep? Try Fade Out, or the most popular pre-workout supplement on the market today, Total War. Sign up for their new Transformation Challenge and win $10,000, or shop for apparel that people at the gym will know that you are serious about your training. Need a testosterone booster that works? Check out Boomstick. Whatever you need, you'll find the best quality supplements on the market at Redcon One. Go to redcon1.com. That's REDCON, the number 1.com, or go to superhumanradio.net and click the Redcon One banner ad today.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where brawn and brains finally meet.
Welcome back. We're talking with Lynn Cooke, Masters athlete, courageous, living life, not standing still, like a lot of other people our age. So we have a couple questions here. So this is from Brave New Order Films. This is on YouTube. He says, salute from Vegas. From your perspective, how important is the anabolic or metabolic window? Many have pushed this as a myth, but I agree with the guest. It's important. What do you think? You did say you have a post-workout drink within 20 minutes of anything you do, right?
I agree. Yes, I do. And I feel that's very important. I was taught by one of my coaches, and he was adamant about that. And I take it with me no matter where I'm at, knowing I'm going to do a workout, whether it be doing what they call SUP, stand-up paddleboarding, or at the track. It's in my car on ice, and it goes in my system immediately after, whether it's here where I do my weights most of the time. Exactly. But that is something I'm strict on. Yes.
What is it comprised of? You have some simple carbs in there? Is this at one time when you do use simple carbs, or is it just protein?
It's pretty much protein. It's a 30-gram protein, which is a huge hit, and it tastes like chocolate milk. It's a very popular brand, and it's, I think, 1 gram of sugar. So you don't adhere to the 40 grams of dextrose post-workout? No, is that what you're asking? The 40?
Yeah, no. because back in the day when I first started lifting, this whole anabolic window thing was 40 grams of dextrose, 40 grams of protein, a little bit of alcoholic acid, because theoretically, you also want to synthesize muscle glycogen. But the reality is, if you're training, even intensely with weights for 40 minutes, you're not really using that much muscle glycogen. So that 40 grams is way too much. It just spikes insulin. That's all it does.
Yeah, no, I understand. No, that's all I do is the 30 grams for the protein drink. But I think I'm a little different because I'm not doing the heavy lifting. I'm doing a different, on the muscles. So.
Well, no, running is less sparing to glycogen than lifting is. Running really burns up glycogen fast. I think you're doing it right, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
The other way was the myth. What about your colleagues, your competitors that you work with? Do they all adhere to the post-workout drink, or just some of them do?
No, just some of them. I honestly, at this age, you find that it's not very many who take it as seriously as I do. You have to, it's a passion for me. It's something I want so bad. And again, the book, How Bad Do You Want It? There's no excuses in my book. I have goals. And to reach those goals at the elite level that I'm at, a 1/100th of a second makes a win or makes a gold or a silver in my case. 1/100th of a second. That could be anything. You could blame it on anything. Lack of this, lack of that. You didn't get enough sleep 2 nights before, 3 nights before. Not enough protein, or your beet shot you forgot to take. It's just you have to be very disciplined on everything to get to the levels at this age, especially because you do have more aches and pains. Your body is showing that it's feeling things a little bit more. And, I wake up like anybody does, where I am maybe a little more sore from the day before if I've done a hard workout, just because I'm almost 62. But that doesn't stop me from what I'm doing.
Yeah, I joke on the show all the time that when I wake up in the morning, I kind of look like a caveman. I'm a little hunched over. Everything hurts. My legs don't really want to cooperate. By the time I get in I find the shower first thing in the morning is the most miraculous thing in the world. I don't even need coffee if I take a shower right away.
Oh, really?
And you know something? For people who believe in grounding, there is really a good effect of grounding. I've seen it with my own eyes. You ground every time you get in the shower. I've done this. I've taken an ohm meter, excuse me, and put it in the ground side of a socket. Don't try this at home, kids. I don't want to be responsible for getting electrocuted. And put the other one under the stream, and it goes to ground. So because the water is going to the earth somewhere, even if it's in plastic pipes, somewhere it's in metal, and that ground is being carried through the stream of water where the beads are so close together, they're continuous. And so you ground every morning, but I think the shower is what snaps me out of the caveman mode. So a faith fitness guy commented, he says, great point about Phil Mickelson and it being a performance enhancing drug. It absolutely is, but it's big pharma. That's the difference. Mm-hmm. They get special things. Yeah. So something else that you just said is important to hit on. This isn't just in performance either. But as you get older, you have to do everything right. Mm-hmm. When you were young, even in your 40s and into the early 50s, I'm speaking from my own experience, I could maybe not sleep so well, or miss a couple meals, or go out drinking on a Saturday night and then train Sunday morning. And I was just strong and did everything I wanted to do and robust. But something happened when I turned 60. When I turned 60, it was like if I went out drinking on a Saturday night, I couldn't train again until Monday. Like there was no way I was going to the gym on Sunday, and Monday was even questionable. I would take 2 days off sometimes. When you get older, you have to do everything right. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. In fact, you need the rest days. You need to do either active recovery or true recovery, and that you listen to your body. And as you know your body, most of us know our body who are on your show. You have to get used to your aches and pains. And when it's telling you it needs a rest day, you need to take it, especially as a master's and as an older athlete, because otherwise you're going to get to a point where either you're going to get injured or it's going to break. I mean, it's just going to be worn out, and you're not going to get to the level of what you need if you're trying to get to a certain goal. So I listen to my body absolutely every day.
What is active recovery for you?
Active recovery is going to the beach and doing stand-up paddle boarding for a couple miles, or it's spinning, or it's, I have a Peloton room. I built a Peloton room, not just during COVID, but because it's a great way for cross training. I believe in cross training, and that is my active recovery. I have a Peloton tread. I have yoga. I have the spin bike. I do, obviously my weights are not active recovery. That is just part of my training. But active recovery is any sport that I want to do that is not part of my actual training, such as boarding, open water swimming with the group, pool swimming, things like that, where I'm not truly training, but I'm relaxing. I'll take and go lap after lap after lap with my earphones on for just like this massage effect in a pool. And that to me is active recovery. I'm not doing it for the training purposes in this case because I'm not injured right now.
What about sauna? Do you believe in sauna? Do you ever use the sauna, or you don't have to?
I if I had it available, absolutely. I believe in it, sure. But I just don't have that ability. I don't use gyms right now because I built my own gym, not only the Peloton room, I have another separate gym for my weights because I take it that seriously, and I have my whole life. I decided at this point, if you don't have a gym close enough, you're not going to use it. And I don't have, and I've learned that my whole life because I've been a member of a gym my whole life, whether it be LA Fitness, Ballet, you name it. Every gym I've been a member of that's been in my area where I've lived. But I found at some point when I had the means and the space that building my own gym was going to get me in there more often. No excuses. There's never need for an excuse when you have your own gym.
You could do 2-a-days with no effort if you have your own gym, right? You just
I do.
Break a minute and go down the gym for 30 minutes and bust something out.
Exactly. I do that. I do 2-a-days for training purposes, many days. So some days I'll spend almost the whole day, different piece of training if I need to. So it's all good. It's all good.
So many years ago, I had the author of the book, See Olga Run. Olga Kolenko, I think her last name was Kolenko. I might be mispronouncing her name. Are you familiar with who she is?
I'm familiar, but I'm not, because of my short time in being in this field, I don't know everybody that everybody else does. I'm still learning, but I am familiar with her name, yes. Mm-hmm.
So she was a runner. She started running late in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she was still running. I think she was 92 when she ran her last race. Mm-hmm. And she was very inspirational to a lot of older people, whether they were runners or not, because she was showing that, you don't have to just get old and stop doing stuff. You really don't have to. You have a choice in it. And I didn't know if you were familiar with her book. Her book is fascinating. She used to wake up early in the morning, she would lean forward and she would start at her bottom of her calves, and she would massage her legs in bed, because she learned that when she got right out of bed, her legs, they were stiff, and she didn't like that feeling. So she did deep tissue massage on her legs so that when she stepped out of bed, she felt fine and she didn't realize, oh, I'm getting older.
That's very smart.
That's fascinating.
We have, when I go to these USA track and field meets, the most inspirational thing is not the 60-year-olds like myself, not the 50 and the 40-year-olds, the 100-year-olds. I mean, literally 100-plus-year-olds that are still out there running. They may take a little longer, but I'm telling you, these people are competing and they are 100-plus. The 90-year-olds are out there too, and the 80-year-olds are out there too. But this keeps you young. And the fact that you don't feel like you have this age limit. The ceiling is way up there for how long you could keep doing this. Once you stop, though, that's when you get old, and you just have to keep on going. And it does get harder, but you find ways, just like she did, that you work with your body, you listen to your body, and it will work with you and for you. It'll keep on going as long as you treat it right.
So when I was my strongest, when I was powerlifting, I had a habit. I would train first thing in the morning. I would eat a post-workout meal, and then I would go home and I would take a nap. Mm-hmm. I would take a nap, not a long nap, maybe 30 minutes. I would fall asleep after that meal, and then I would spontaneously wake up, and maybe it was 30 minutes, maybe some days it was 20 minutes, some days it was 40 minutes. Drove my ex-wife crazy, by the way. But I did it because instinctively I knew that it's what my body needed after the training I just did. And, when we think about wild animals, we like to talk about paleo people. Like Paleolithic ancestors, they sat down and played and fell asleep under a tree whenever they wanted. There was no social construct that said, you're lazy, get up and do something, Right. And when we look at the big cats, right? What do after they catch a gazelle and they eat for a while? They go find the shade tree, they lay down, they fall asleep. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if you have investigated or experimented with midday naps at all.
Absolutely. Many of us do that, and I do that. I have the luxury because of being retired. I say retired, but I am working harder now with what I do than I was when I worked. I took early retirement a couple years ago when I was, unfortunately, the day before my 59th, I was given the choice of early retirement, and I took it to pursue my passion and my dream, which is wonderful. But I absolutely, when I have the ability, I take a nap, and it does refresh you, and then I continue training if that's needed. But I break up my day. I feed my body. If my body is tired, I absolutely take a nap.
So I want to take a break. And when we come back, I want to explore with you social constructs that are actually stealing our health and our vitality. Like the ability to just take a nap without being judged, or somebody saying, oh, you're lazy. Mm-hmm. There's other things in our lives that are stealing our life from us. I want to talk about that when we come back. Okay. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio.
Quest Nutrition makes bars, cookies, chips, and pizzas out of complete dairy-based proteins. Our products minimize net carbs and sugar without sacrificing taste. Each delicious chocolate-flavored chip, cookie chunk, and crunchy crumble is custom made to maintain Quest macros. It's time to enjoy foods that work for you, not against you. It's time to enjoy your Quest.
Proper hydration can lead to improved endurance, performance, and recovery. When we sweat, we lose valuable electrolytes that must be replaced. That's why Element created a zero-sugar, science-backed ratio of electrolytes that you can add to your water. It comes in 3 flavors. Sample them all risk-free with the Element Variety Pack. Carl's favorite is raspberry. Free shipping on all U.S. orders. Go to shrnetwork.biz/LMNT and get yours today. Mind Bullet is a kratom product derived from the coffee family to boost energy and creative juices. Mind Bullet comes in both pill and liquid form for the ultimate pre-workout supplement. When needing a little pick-me-up or to get through the morning fog, Mind Bullet will set your productive course fast. Go to shrnetwork.biz/mindbullet, all one word, today, and save 20%. No subscription required. That's shrnetwork.biz/mindbullet. Get yours today.
Chronic stress leaves us tired, distracted, and physically vulnerable. Apollo Neuro is here to help you take control. Apollo Neuro is a new wearable that trains your nervous system to be more resilient to stress. Apollo's gentle vibrations use your sense of touch to help you recover from stress, going from fight or flight to rest and digest so you can relax, get to sleep, focus, and stay healthy. Developed by physicians and neuroscientists, Apollo Neuro has been tested in multiple clinical trials and is proven to improve heart rate variability, the key biometric of stress. Special offer for friends of Superhuman Radio. Try Apollo Neuro today and get 15% off your purchase at apolloneuro.com/superhuman. That's APOLLONEURO.com/superhuman. You've heard me talk about the chill pill on the show and how effective it is at helping people who suffer from social anxiety, or sometimes when you just want to take the edge off to a long, stressful day. Well, listen to this story from Dylan Goutreau.
Definitely takes anxiety away, which I have a long history of having. Started out at 2 milligrams a day of Xanax. That was at 8 years old. And so I stopped using benzos 3 years ago. Extremely difficult. Yeah, so I spent about 3 years trying to find anything and everything I could that would be healthy for me to help with anxiety. Because I'm talking, full out panic attack. The chill pill was the first thing that I found that actually in the middle of a panic attack I can take, and it definitely subsides.
Go to drseeds.com. That's DRSEEDS.com. Use coupon code SHR and save 20% off your first bottle of the chill pill. Check it out. I promise this is one supplement that delivers.
When craving a snack, reach for Select Savory Snack Sugar-Free Biltong, the healthy alternative to sugar-laden beef jerky. They use a fattier cut of beef, making it more tender and flavorful. For mealtime, choose from their 63 seasonings, which are sugar and additive-free. From chipotle rub to savory pumpkin spice, you'll find an option to suit your palate. Go to shrnetwork.biz/SSS today. Use code SHR15 to save 15% on any meat snack or seasoning. Savor the flavor today.
This is the Superhuman Channel, doing reps with the weight of the world.
Welcome back. Later in the show, we're going to talk about jet lag. This interview isn't about jet lag either. I want people to understand this. Disruption of circadian rhythms puts your immune system at risk, and it leads to higher cases of specific types of cancer, like colon cancer. So, in order to be a champion, you have to be solely focused on your goal. And some people think that's very narcissistic or selfish. We have a lot of social constructs today that get in the way of us living our best life. I see all these memes, live your best life. But no one's really living their best life, right? Because living your best life is living your life the way you are the architect of. So like we just said, oh, you go to the gym, you take a nap, right? Social constructs say that's not right. You shouldn't do that. There are lots of other social constructs, right? When you go out to dinner with friends, you're supposed to drink. You're supposed to stay up past 9 o'clock or you're a dud. Watching television all night long, being on the internet all night long. These are all social constructs that I feel impede a person's ability to actually live their best life. What do you think about that?
Oh, you hit on something that's big with me. as I've aged, I've learned not to care as much. And one of the things, and this to me falls along the lines of what you're mentioning, it's a hot button with me right now. And I use my timeline, even though I'm sponsored by several sponsors, and I'm very careful, obviously, because I give back to my sponsors and I want to make sure I'm not controversial to any large degree. I still don't lose my identity. And I showcase myself as an athlete. I have built myself to the point where I'm not shy because I am fit, and I do like to be feminine, but still portray an athlete. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have to dress where I'm covering up my body just because I'm 62 years of age. If I have abs, I'm going to show my abs because I worked very hard for those. And I run around a track in a little tiny kit, the same kind of outfit that you would wear at a bathing suit, a beach, a two-piece. But I am not shy with that, and I do it as an athlete. But I have a lot of people who don't think that that's appropriate for necessarily my age division or my age group. I don't care. I've gotten over that, and you'll see that if anybody goes to my Facebook or my Instagram. I do it classy. I do it as an athlete, and I do it to showcase the human body as a fit machine that deserves to be shown off in the proper way. That's all.
Well, and one of the things I love when you said that is that hairstylists always want to cut women's hair if they're of a certain age. Mm-hmm. Oh, your hair shouldn't be long. And it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And I don't understand where that comes from. Why, if a woman has a beautiful head of hair and it's attractive and she manages it well, why should she have to have short hair because she's a certain age?
There is no guideline that I follow that's written in a book right now that says, this is the age you need to do this. This is the age you stop wearing a form-fitting, cleavage showing, I will do what I want to do. I'm always tasteful. I'm always classy, and I'm always who I am. So I don't follow any rules like that.
So what's the future look like? Are you training right now for anything special? I know you're going to do a deeper dive on looking at the knee and what's going on. And it could have been, you could have just ended up with some severe inflammation in that knee at that time, and it subsided too. Because bone on bone inflammation looks like arthritis, but when the bone inflammation goes away, the bone recedes. So what's next for you?
I have a meet next week, an indoor track race that is up in Winston-Salem. 2 weeks after that, I go to Houston for an indoor track meet. I'm then at the 1 week after that, I go for an outdoor track meet. And then hopefully 2021, depending on what happens with things in our world, I'm going to go for some records. And my first record will hopefully be an indoor mile world record that I'm going to be going for. Of course, those are all, you can throw them out there all you want, but until you actually break the record, you don't have the record. So we'll see. But I'm going to pick off record after record, and those are my goals. And I'm going to do them in several distances, indoor and outdoor. So I have a lot of things on my plate. I'm hoping that the environment will cooperate with me. And if it doesn't, I put it on hold until it does. But I am training, yes.
So let's summarize. How many world records do you hold right now?
No, I actually have one American record, which is the outdoor mile, yes.
Okay.
And sometimes they differ. Yeah, sometimes there is a world record and an American record, or sometimes they are one and the same. In this case, there are two. It's just the American record. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you're shooting for more records. That's the goal.
Right.
And I know a lot of people always probably ask you this, but do you think you'll do this forever?
Mm-hmm. I do. I want to do it. I have a passion for it. I am a show off, however you want to put that, but running around a track gives me such pleasure. And if you want to call it a show off factor, I enjoy it because I am good at it right now. If I ever change, I may choose to go into something else. But if I keep my health and my fitness, I will continue aging in the age division, and I don't see that I'm going to necessarily get worse. Right. I'll get slower as I age, but so does everybody else.
Yeah, so. The whole field does. So you'll be right. Mm-hmm. You'll still be the fastest person of the slow people. That's all.
Right.
That's the goal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I think you've done a wonderful thing. I think that you're a model for everybody to pay attention to who's aging. And I also think that it's important for people to start to understand, here in the United States, we complain, oh, well, the Asians, they put so much value in the older people. Well, maybe we would put more value in older people if they stepped up and did amazing things that older people don't typically do.
Mm-hmm. One thing that when you go to Worlds, you see how the other countries put their aging athletes on a much higher level, and they really do make them the stars. Where in the U.S., we're very few and far between, unfortunately, and we're not quite as focused as the other countries are at this point with this stuff.
But why do you think that is? Do you think it's because our older athletes give up at some point in time? They cash in, they get fat, they get slow, they start doing Australian Dream elbow cream, commercials. I mean, think that's what it is?
I think if you ask your audience right now, how many are aware of what I'm talking about today? A lot will not be aware. They probably thought you gave that up in high school and college, that you no longer race around a track as a 60-year-old or
Right.
70 or an 80-year-old, and that there is actually a world with it. And that's because the U.S. doesn't promote that. We really don't showcase our track athletes at an older age, nor the USA Track and Field part of it. So I think if they put a little more into the, not necessarily marketing, but showing that this is something we can get into at an older age and actually become accomplished, then it would do better. And the other countries already have done that.
Lynn, thanks for making time to come on the show today.
Thank you very much for having me. I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
Good. Take care. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to change up the discussion because we're going to talk about jet lag and how it affects the immune system. But again, don't say to yourself, oh, I don't really travel. If you have impaired sleep, you are at risk of these things too. It's not just jet lag. We're going to talk about that when we come back. Stay tuned for more Superhuman Radio. Do you remember those delicious toaster pastries you had when you were a kid? You know, the rectangular sugar-filled snacks? Well, guess what? Legendary Foods has just made low-carb toaster pastry. This is the first of its kind, and honestly, these things are amazing. They have 3 to 4 net carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 9 grams of protein. You can eat them right out of the wrapper or lightly toast them. The only question is, which flavor, strawberry or brown sugar cinnamon? They're available at eatlegendary.com and Amazon. If there is one mineral you should be worried about not getting enough of, it's magnesium. Magnesium is the body's master mineral, powering over 300 critical reactions, including detoxification, fat metabolism, energy, and even digestion is influenced by the presence of magnesium. That's why I'm so excited to tell you about a new magnesium product I've been taking now called Magnesium Breakthrough. It's the ultimate magnesium supplement, easily the best I've ever seen or experienced. With all 7 forms of magnesium, I was able to arrange an amazing deal for my audience, and I guarantee it's the best deal available on this product. Seriously, with volume discounts combined with our custom 10% coupon code SHR10, you can save up to 40% off select packages of Magnesium Breakthrough. And I promise that this deal is only available on this specific website, magbreakthrough.com/SHR. You won't find that deal on Amazon or even on the company's own website. Go to magbreakthrough.com/SHR and use code SHR10 to save up to 40% off select packages of Magnesium Breakthrough.
Want to improve mental energy and focus? Try the new Superhuman Stack from Pure Nootropics. Stack Dynamine, Salbutamine, Theocrine, and palmitoyl ethanolamide together and feel the lights go on in your brain. Find your perfect mix of these 4. Carl likes 1 cap of each and 2 caps of Dynamine. Bam! Lights on. Go to shrnetwork.biz/superhuman stack, all one word, today, and get yours for 25% off plus free shipping. That's shrnetwork.biz/superhuman stack.
Whether your goal is to build muscle or burn fat, you'll find everything you need at Redcon One. Need help getting a good night's sleep? Try Fade Out, or the most popular pre-workout supplement on the market today, Total War. Sign up for their new Transformation Challenge and win $10,000, or shop for apparel that people at the gym will know that you are serious about your training. Need a testosterone booster that works? Check out Boomstick. Whatever you need, you'll find the best quality supplements on the market at Redcon One. go to redcon1.com. That's REDCON, the number 1.com, or go to superhumanradio.net and click the Redcon 1 banner ad today.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Chronic stress leaves us tired, distracted, and physically vulnerable. Apollo Neuro is here to help you take control. Apollo Neuro is a new wearable that trains your nervous system to be more resilient to stress. Apollo's gentle vibrations use your sense of touch to help you recover from stress, going from fight or flight to rest and digest so you can relax, get to sleep, focus, and stay healthy. Developed by physicians and neuroscientists, Apollo Neuro has been tested in multiple clinical trials and is proven to improve heart rate variability, the key biometric of stress. Special offer for friends of Superhuman Radio. Try Apollo Neuro today and get 15% off your purchase at apolloneuro.com/superhuman. That's APOLLONEURO.com/superhuman.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. Don't hate us because we feel good.
Welcome back to Superhuman Radio. Welcome to the show, Dr. Carla Finkielstein. How are you?
Very good, thanks.
Did I pronounce your last name properly?
That's fairly okay. Yeah, it's Finkielstein. That's good.
Are you from Israel?
No, my family is. I'm actually originally from Argentina. Born in Argentina, from mix of European countries, parents from different European countries. Lived there until I moved to US for my studies, and then remain here. But I'm really over the world. I mean,
because of the spelling, the way you spell your last name is. I have a friend who's from Israel, and he spells his last name the same way.
Yeah. My family is from there originally.
Yeah. Okay. Well, welcome to the show. Yeah, so your study is very, very interesting for a lot of reasons. I don't know if you heard what I said a moment ago.
Yeah.
I know that your study was on jet lag, but the reality is any circadian disruption could put a person at risk for a faulty system. Yeah. So, but let's talk about your study. Why did you do this study? What research preceded this that you felt that this needed to be done?
Yeah. You got it totally right, Carl. So, first of all, let me tell you that, like you said, a misalignment, I mean, the displacement of the circadian rhythms by, let's say, night shift work causes or is responsible for a number of diseases. Mm-hmm. And I'm a cancer researcher. So I was particularly interested in the connection between disruption of the circadian rhythm and the onset of cancer. And there are numerous studies that shows that women's working night shifts or flight attendants, for example, or women's working in factories or in retail companies, they all have a higher risk of developing breast cancer.
And colon cancer, too, is associated with night shifts, right?
You're absolutely true. Colon cancer, colorectal cancer, and prostate cancer in men very recently. So, but really everything started with breast cancer, to be honest, because those were kind of the very early studies. Actually, some of them, they go as far as 1950s. And really, when you start putting all the pieces together, you realize that the common denominator is this night shift work. That basically what it causes is this misalignment between your physiology and the environment. And then is when the big problem begins, because we are 24 hours creature living in a 24 hours cycle. And then suddenly you are forced to be active and work at times of the day where you should be resting. Okay. And then someone took this kind of observations very seriously and launched a huge study in early or mid 70s that is called the Nurses Study. And the Nurses Study recruited something like 275,000 nurses, all both genders. And they follow those nurses for over 30 years. And they find out that, there were these strong correlations between, the incidence of coronary heart diseases, cancer, obesity, okay, diabetes with.
That's the one. I was waiting to say. So I believe in my simple brain, and I'm not a scientist, that all of the things that we're learning about what disruption of circadian rhythm does to us negatively, all spurs from the fact that we become spontaneously insulin resistant. There was studies done, so many good studies done with doctors who had to work 2 consecutive shifts, and they one sleepless night, they had the blood sugar levels of an 80-year-old, management of an 80-year-old. They did it with Olympic athletes when we had the Olympics in the Northwest. They took high-level Olympic athletes. They short sleep them 5 hours a night for 3 hours in a row. They were spontaneously type 2 diabetic. So I really think that this is where all of these other problems are an offshoot of the fact that we become metabolically inflexible immediately.
We're totally messing up our metabolism. That is out of discussion. Our hormonal release. I mean, if you think something very simple, right? I mean, one of the reasons because you go to sleep is because your melatonin levels are very high, and that's the hormone that shuts down everything and tells you you just need to go to sleep. Now, when you are exposed to artificial light, melatonin is suppressed. But because melatonin is suppressed, estradiol is released from the ovaries. And estradiol is a hormone that basically tells the cells divide. Now, if you do this kind of night shift once in a while, like you need to work at night or something, and that is something spontaneous, that is not going to end up in a major disruption. But when you're exposed to a chronic misalignment, that is when things become an issue. And it's such a point, such an important point that, just to give you an idea, the International Agency on Research in Cancer, that is an European agency, with 16 different representatives from different countries, they actually label night shift as a potential carcinogenic. And there are regulations in France, England, and Sweden that prevents people from working night shifts for too many years. They cannot work, for example, in professions where they stay night shift for more than 4 or 5 years, for example.
Right.
And you are not allowed to do what you just said before. Switch. One day you are night shift worker and the other day you are day shift worker. That is even worse.
Right.
This continuous resetting of our internal clock is what actually is confusing our systems. You need to think that you have everything is regulated in your brain, okay? Through a little piece of tissue called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. So this little piece
the size of a bean. It's about the size of a bean.
It's the rise of a bean, and basically what this guy does is tell the other organs, okay, this is nighttime, this is daytime. Let's synchronize our physiology and let's synchronize our behavior. Now, when you mess up with that and gets all confused, it sends confusing signals. So your slave oscillators or your organs, they are all confused. Imagine this, Carl. You just take a plane and you go to Spain, right? They are 6 hours ahead. The first thing that you do, all more international planes, they actually arrive early in the morning. So the first thing that you do is, okay, I need to stay awake. Okay, don't go to sleep. Manage to stay all day awake until you crash at night. Right. That is okay. After a couple of days, you synchronize your sleep-awake pattern. Right. But one thing that you don't synchronize immediately is your liver, your intestines, your kidney to the new time zone. So for a week, your digestive system is going to be working like if you were at home. Okay? And by the time that you get adjusted, if you stay only 1 week in Europe, by the time that you adjust all those systems, you're coming back.
And now you're going to do it all over again for a week there.
Right. So then you imagine how bad this is for flight attendants, for example. And
pilots too.
Pilots. I mean,
how sensitive is this disruption? If I'm just flying from New York to Los Angeles, that's 3-hour difference, versus flying to Europe where it's 17-hour difference. Does the 3-hour difference hurt too?
Yeah, it will take you around 3 days to resynchronize everything. I mean, it's truly bad, and that was one of the reasons because we start this study. I mean, we thought, okay, well, let's try to check which ones are the reasons by which this diseases can arise. And then you cannot try this obviously with humans, so you use an animal model. And what we did in this animal model, basically, we misaligned the circadian clock. We create an artificial jet lag. So every 2 days, we have these animals moving 6 hours ahead on the day. So we gave them a pulse of 6 hours of night every two days. So that creates an artificial jet lag. It's equivalent to something like flying 21 flight zones. It's like we put a mice here and we test it in Japan, let's say.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So we keep the animal for like 3 weeks in this condition, and then we have obviously the control animal that stays 12 hours in the light and 12 hours in the dark. And then what we did after those 3 weeks is both groups of animals, we injected cancer cells that we know that those cancer cells, they actually grow much faster if there is an immune system that is compromised. Okay? So both animals were injected with the same amount of cells. Everything, if there is no effect of the circadian rhythm, the tumor will grow in the animal exactly in the same way. Okay? So we kept the animals in this kind of crazy schedule. And what we found out is that the animal that was in the chronic jet lag, okay, had a tumor that grew 6 times faster and higher, I mean, in size, than the other animal. Okay, of course, died faster, right? I mean, it's just, we went down into the little details, we want to know exactly what happened there. And we found that not only the microenvironment, the environment around the tumor was completely remodeled. The immune cells were not doing the job. Some of the cells that are supposed to be up and fighting the tumor were down, and the ones that causes inflammations were up. We found that the immune system per se was all confused and sending the wrong signals. And when you have an immune system that is confused and send the wrong signals, the immune system does not operate efficiently. And when that happens, the tumor takes control.
Right.
And trust me, these tumor cells are super fast at taking advantage of absolutely any environment.
Oh, they're actually evolutionarily, it's been shown that cancer cells and tumor cells are evolutionarily superior to quiescent cells. They leverage everything that's good for healthy cells tenfold to grow faster.
The study is, it really, I hope it really brings to the attention that is, we humans, just with our own behavior, we are affecting so much our own physiology. Okay. And don't take me wrong. I do understand that there are jobs that need to be done at night. I mean, you need to keep the hospitals open. Okay. But maybe a solution would be very simple. Just change the light intensity and change the quality of light. For example,
blue blocking glasses. They could just wear blue blocking glasses. That's it.
Yeah, or use lights that they have more that are bright more on the red spectrum.
Yes.
Okay? And that's it. I mean, the same thing that we do in our cell phones and computers.
What about so there was a study that was done on colon cancer about 8 years ago. They came to the supposition that it was the lack of melatonin that was causing these cancer cells to grow faster. What about just like when I travel to the West Coast or to the East Coast, I artificially try to synchronize my sleep to stay on my own clock. I don't change my wristwatch. I use blue blocking glasses earlier in the day, and I'll take melatonin. What about melatonin? Does supplementing with melatonin help offset some of these problems, you think?
Well, it's a good question, actually. The studies with melatonin are kind of debatable in terms of cancer. There are some studies that suggest that there is this link, and like I said, in the case of breast cancer, it kind of makes sense. But those studies were done in animals that are merely nocturnal, okay, and we humans are diurnal. So there are a number of issues that suggest that we need to do really more comprehensive studies to completely link melatonin to any of these, diseases that they are.
So melatonin may not have an intrinsic effect. It may have some extrinsic effect at this point.
Yeah, exactly. But your idea of maintaining, your clock, your internal clock, when you are traveling is, especially if it's for a short time, it's a pretty good idea. Yeah. I mean, the problem that we have is that, unfortunately, we are either not aware very much about all these problems, or we choose to ignore them for reasons that we live in a Western society where we need to do things. Ideally, you want to
that we don't want to do. Yeah, we do things we don't want to do.
I mean, the ideal situation is like what the farmers used to do, right? Wake up when sun rises and go to sleep in sunset. Okay, so that's the ideal situation, and you will be the healthiest individual. Okay, but the reality is that at night, some people watches a movie, or some of us, we end up working late at night because it's the only time where you actually have time to concentrate, or whatever, right? But just by shifting our rhythm, by being exposed to extra hours to light, we are completely desynchronizing our body. And this is called, in our field, social jet lag. It's a jet lag you create, not because you're flying to any place. It's just simply because you have a social activity that keeps you awake and exposed to light for longer hours. 80% of the population is exposed to light after hours.
Oh, I know.
And if you really think that around 20% of Europeans and 29% of the US population are night shift workers, we are talking about a serious problem. But it's a serious problem that it has an easy fix, really. Right? Because if you said, okay, Carla, sure, we still need night shift workers, and I'm going to say, yes, we do need them. But if you can change the light intensity, or you can have this additional restrictions.
So I have a light spectrometer on my phone. Very good. Measures in Kelvin and everything like that. And so I started to, when we first started talking about blue light and how it impedes circadian rhythms, I started paying attention to my environment. Interestingly enough, the newer, more advanced light bulbs, LED, halogen, these throw a lot more blue light. And incandescent, the old-fashioned light bulbs that they're trying to get rid of today, they're perfect. They throw more red than blue. They throw almost no blue at all. And so, because I thought about this, it's like, well, we used to, back in the old days, they had fires. Well, the fires don't throw blue light. And now, we had incandescent lights. We didn't have these problems.
Well,
the new lighting, too, has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, you actually can have some of those LED lights and then put on a screen, right, that can filter the light. I mean, if you want to do energy, savvy and try to protect the environment and everything, you can have one of those lights and then have a screen. I mean, if you probably notice that some computers that they don't have any kind of light controlling system, they offer in the market screens to put on top.
Right.
So you are protected. Or like you said, wear those goggles or glasses that helps. I mean, honestly, it's a very easy way to control your physiology. And another thing that is important is the diet. This is something else that is not trivial. I mean, we know at what times of the day certain processes take place. Okay. And we know that ideally you don't want to eat. I mean, based on scientific facts, you don't want to eat
before bed
when it's dark.
Right.
Okay. So, in fact, there's a whole school that is really based on some of my colleagues' science that they did a fantastic work that shows you that an efficient circadian diet would be that one in which you eat pretty much whatever you want during the day, as long as you don't eat at night, and you fast for 14 or 16 hours.
16 hours, exactly. And see, I do that. I have my last meal at 6 p.m. Because I don't want to end up with Alzheimer's disease. And there's a linkage to autophagy in the brain being shut off if you eat a meal too close to bedtime. But anyway, so are you familiar with Dr. Thomas Seyfried?
No.
He is an oncologist who wrote a book, Cancer as a Metabolic Disease.
Okay.
He's done some very interesting research. And his theory is, and he has some good science behind it, that cancer starts when the mitochondria becomes a glycolytic. It undergoes anaerobic respiration, and it just wants glucose. But there are some It can also use methionine. It also can use glutamine. Some of these are highly glucogenic amino acids. But the premise is that once the mitochondria breaks, that's when the oncogenes turn on and we have cancer. Did you look at mitochondria of these rodents that were subjected to jet lag at all? Did you see anything in their mitochondria?
We have not looked at the mitochondria. It's true that the mitochondria is regulated in cancer cells. That is what is called the Warburg effect.
Warburg effect, right. Yeah.
So basically what cancer cells, they do is they actually have a very inefficient way to produce energy, which is strange because you might expect that cancer cells that use so much energy in dividing, they will have a very efficient way to produce energy, but they manage to go through around all these other pathways that you mentioned and collect enough energy. We have not looked at the mitochondrial effects, and one of the reasons is because the problem that you have when you have a cancer cell is that there are too many things that are deregulated.
Right.
Okay, and then everything goes back to, it's kind of catch-22. What is the first thing that causes this problem? Okay, for example, if you tell me, Carla, is circadian rhythm enough to actually cause cancer? I mean, it's just turn it off and on the light. Would that be enough? I mean, if you really think cancer is a genetic disease, unless you have an oncogene mutated, or if you have a tumor suppressor mutated, or you have one of those genes mutated that they regulate metabolic processes in the cell and everything, nothing is going to happen. Okay, but if on top of that you add this kind of disruptions, then you're giving a particular fitness advantage to those cancer cells. And because you get that fitness advantage, the cancer cells overpower anything else that is around.
Right.
So basically, you are creating a monster that is more efficient simply by controlling the controllers. You are actually downplaying the molecules that and the cells that can control the tumor. So that's what you're doing. It's like if these guys keep the cancer in check, right, and cannot move from here, and by modifying the environment, you are reducing these guys, then you are allowing the tumor to grow faster.
Right.
And that's what happened. I mean, I don't think, please don't take me wrong, because it's true, cancer is a genetic disease, and you do need those metabolic changes in order for the disease to progress.
Right.
But what you're creating here is a situation in which you favor that environment more than anything else.
Right. Right.
And the tumor cells are super smart. They just go and take advantage.
So the reality is that while this study was labeled jet lag, every single night, millions of people in this country turn on their TVs, open up their refrigerators, and watch TV and eat until 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Then they go to sleep. These people are creating an opportunistic environment to develop cancer.
You are absolutely correct. That's exactly what happened. You don't need to take a plane to actually suffer a chronic jet lag. You can actually artificially creating this in your own house by being exposed when you shouldn't be exposed to light.
See, and this is scary because I'm old enough to remember that television stations went off the air at midnight. I'm old enough
to remember that too.
Really? Okay. Yeah. I'm old enough to remember stores not being open on Sunday. I'm old enough to remember that stores closed at 6 p.m. I'm old enough to remember that there was as much downtime for the population as there was uptime. But today, all we have is uptime.
I mean, it is like that. It's exactly what you said. I remember those days very well. And the problem is that there's an expectation about that, right? I mean, also it's like, you know how many people stays online just doing, I don't know, Facebook or social.
Nothing useless. Yeah, right.
And then it's, like I said, I mean, if the simple solution is just putting on a screen or controlling the light effect, it's fantastic. But the reality is that I feel like, I mean, if you really look carefully, there are a number of cancers that are more prominent in Western societies, specifically because of this kind of problems. I mean, in Europe, they do have regulations, for example, that you should not work after 6 p.m. I mean, they do have policies in place. Go to France. I mean, in France, you are not obligated in any way to even check your email after 6 p.m. They don't expect that you will be in any way available for work or for anything like that. Yes, unfortunately we humans usually learn on the
well, look at delivery companies, UPS and FedEx and overnight, and I mean they have entire factories filled with people pushing boxes from 10 p.m. till 8 a.m. the next morning, and these people aren't sleeping. And a lot of those people are then going to other jobs after that, or going to school, because they try to attract school-age people and pay their way. It's really gotten pretty crazy in this country, and it's at the expense of health. It's all at the expense of health.
Yeah, one thing that I remember running a study with some nurses, and I was like, I just had this question, and I asked them, "Why do you work at night?" And I always got the same three responses in different order, but the same three responses. One was, I get to see my kids early in the morning before they go to school. Okay, I get better pay. Okay, and I don't see my boss, so my level of stress is low.
See my boss. That's fun.
So I was like, you ask any of these women's working at night, and I was like, well, it's very stressful for your body. Why would you do this? And they always point to three things. And the problem is that I bet you these women, they go back home, they put their kids on the school bus, and they probably crash.
Right.
Okay. And that's terrible. That is absolutely terrible. And I mean, I'm using women as an example simply because we focus on breast cancer, but this applies to absolutely anybody. Obesity, there are some very good studies that shows that animals that they were given the same intake of calories at two different times of the day, one develops obesity and the other one doesn't, right?
Right.
I mean, our metabolism is so fine-tuned to the environment that these changes are causing completely reversal of our the way that our cells and metabolism work.
Well, and there's evidence that eating actually triggers some of those clock mechanisms.
Yeah,
so like if you starve yourself all day long, your body takes that as a cue that the day hasn't started yet.
You are correct. In fact, one of the key cues is food for the liver. Okay, the same way that light or temperature is a really good cue in general, for the suprachiasmatic nuclei, food is the cue for the liver. So if you go to Spain and you want to synchronize your slave oscillator, your gastrointestinal tract faster, you probably want to skip dinner and have only breakfast when you arrive there.
Right.
So that will help to synchronize your system faster. But it's complicated because, for example, let's say that you're a flight attendant, right? In the old days, I don't know if you remember, but in the old days, being flight attendant was really cool because if you were an international flight attendant and there were 6 hours jet lag, then the company will pay you for 6 days in the home place, in the place that you arrive. Okay, you arrive to Spain, and you will get 6 full pay days in Spain until you readjust your clock and then come back. And then there were tons of studies that show that is the worst case scenario, because by the time that you resynchronize your clock, you're coming back and you're messing up again.
Right.
So nowadays, despite I'm pretty sure that flight attendants are not happy about this, but the truth is that they arrive in the morning and they're coming back at night in the following flight. I mean, those women, they're probably exhausted. But that's the only way that you can more or less, or that you can avoid the worst possible scenario of completely misalignment your clock. And still, it's a lot of stress for the body.
Yeah.
It's a really rough profession. I respect it very much.
I have a friend, a very close friend, who just retired from Southwest Airlines after 35 years with them.
Uh-huh.
And so one of his complaints all the time was, he'd be out flying for 3 days. He'd come home. By the time he got a good night's sleep, he had to leave again. And now that he's retired, he's having real trouble sleeping at all. And we just talked about this morning. I said, Billy, maybe it's because your circadian rhythm has been so disrupted for 35 years that it's going to take you a while for your body to kind of find its homeostasis again.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Actually, what I would suggest is probably to have a sleep study done on your friend. It might have some fragmentation on the sleep, or it might have some other issues, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. I mean, another disease that is very, very much associated with this kind of misalignment is heart attacks.
Oh, okay.
Cardiovascular diseases. Cardiovascular diseases are very, very common in people that have this kind of misalignments. I mean, most of the heart attacks occur between 6 in the morning and 9 a.m. Okay, that's the peak. And that coincides with a peak of hypertension.
But see, here's an interesting fact about that. So people who are non-dippers, so every night your heart is supposed to hit a very, very low point, and then it starts to rise back up. And that usually happens in the last third of sleep, where REM sleep happens and so on. Those people, they don't have that dip that we're talking about. They have a heart attack instead because the heart never relaxes all night long.
Yeah.
This is really fascinating stuff.
It's very, it's amazing because, we all, in my field, we look at the molecules and what happens inside one cell and, how all this connects and how A talks to B and what happens if B is not present. But at the end, what you have is an individual that is exposed to environmental changes. And the cells need to read that environmental change and try to do the best they can to actually balance and buffer those changes. And I think asking the cells to do this continuously is too much. And at one point, the cells, they cannot handle it ever again. And then what happens is that, the system cannot buffer these problems, is when we see the development of diseases. And the more chronic we expose our body to these kind of situations, the worse it is, Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. Dr. Finkielstein, I want to thank you so much for being here today. This is really good work you're doing. I just don't know, unless someone becomes enlightened and cares about their own health enough to stop doing the things that are bad for them, I don't see this changing. I mean, when we look at, in the United States, when we look at what healthcare costs are, cancers are a huge portion of that. Heart disease is a huge portion of that. We're talking about something that those two are offshoots of it. So I just don't know how it's going to be.
And I'm going to let you go with one more thing for you to think about, and it's how to use our circadian rhythm and the benefit for treatment. Okay, for example, there are certain drugs that they're giving to patients at time of the day, okay, which is simply convenient because you are awake, but it's not convenient because the target for that drug is present at night. Okay, and then during hours of the day, you are exposed to a drug that is useless, is doing nothing because the target is not there, and it's probably causing some other problems in your body.
Right.
So delivery of medication, okay, at a specific time of the day to make things more effective is another issue that is important to take into consideration for therapeutics, especially for cancer patients.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you don't want to give a cancer patient a drug that is going to target DNA replication, for example, when the cell divides. Okay, at times when that is not happening.
Right.
Because then the solution is gonna be, okay, let's give the patient a higher dose, and then you have a patient with more side effects and a worse quality of life.
Fascinating.
Okay, so all these kind of things are important that we balance.
Yeah, and get to sleep on time. Go to sleep when the sun goes down and wake up when the sun comes up. Dr. Finkielstein, thanks for being here today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Take care. And that's it for today's show. Hope everybody got something good out of it. And if you did, please share the show with friends. Help somebody. Be stronger, live longer. Tomorrow's show is going to be a barn burner. If you want to learn what the most anabolic peptide in the world is, you're not going to want to miss tomorrow's show. All right, that's it for today. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching and listening and all the good things that you bring to the party. I wouldn't have anybody to talk to if it wasn't for you people. Thank you very much. All right, see you tomorrow.